Being authentic, training number 2, let go of trying to look good. There's a difference between trying to look good and actually being good. And I talked about being good in the video, The Secret of Silent Integrity, which I highly recommend. And that's something entirely different than advertising how good you are and how good you look. What does this have to do with being authentic? Well, if you keep trying to cover up your vulnerabilities, your errors, your mistakes, and your lack, you amplify it. You amplify that which you are afraid of. You amplify that which you try to suppress. Okay, you're desperately trying to hide it instead of being comfortable with your shadow, instead of being comfortable with your mistakes. You desperately try to hide it, and that is what amplifies it. Anything you try to hide is actually amplified, and people can sense it, they can feel it. Sometimes they don't see what's wrong with you, but they feel something is off. They feel there's something being hidden there, something awkward, something unreal, something inauthentic. So trying to look good and keep reputation, keep face costs a lot of energy, and in spite of all that investment of energy and perhaps even money, perhaps getting the perfect car so that your neighbors look at you in a good way, you don't find happiness. Why? Because you're exhausting yourself. Some people start an entire career just to look good in front of others. And they live their entire lives in that career just to look good in front of their parents, okay? But they're not happy in that career. They didn't choose it, and they don't like it. So here's a list of things people do to try to look good in front of others. They try to be smart or knowledgeable in front of others. Always try to make the smartest comment or the most brilliant email or use the most genius words. And when that is done spontaneously, when it comes from the heart, it's fine. But many people use that and do it just to make an impression, just to get approval, just to pay attention. So the exercise would be for you, if that's the case with you, to be okay with not being smart, to say something wrong sometimes, to appear stupid sometimes. In fact, in this authenticity training, that's an official exercise. Why don't you do, say, or write something not so smart, perhaps something embarrassing? Why don't you lose face for once and see what happens? If you lost your reputation, you're free to be whatever you want. And I'm not asking you to always do that, okay? It's okay to be smart. The problem here is desperately trying to maintain smartness at all times. Because if you do that, you start to appear unnatural. And people start getting bored of you. Why are they bored? Because you're always perfect. You're always controlled, always tight. Never make mistakes. Never say anything stupid. Don't you understand that people can only relate to you if you're like them, if you also make mistakes? If you don't make any mistakes, nobody can relate to you. If you're perfect all the time, nobody's going to feel warm with you, and you'll become lonely in the end. You think that your perfection is going to make you loved, but actually it isolates you. So it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to not know everything. Another way people try to put on a mask of perfection and looking good is by being unselfish, by always being giving, by never taking anything for themselves. And again, authentic unselfishness is great. It comes from the heart. You give out of joy, out of compassion. Okay, but then there's inauthentic unselfishness that is done in order to appear good in front of others. And if you have a lot of that, then you have some skeletons in your closet that you're trying to cover up. So the exercise would be, in order to reverse that, to be selfish once in a while in front of others. To take things for yourself, to demand things, to ask for things. Once in a while, not always. It's a matter of balance, okay? To not care whether people think you are selfish. Because if you're not selfish, inherently, what do you care if somebody tells you you are? You see how this works? Only people who are inherently selfish are afraid of being detected as such. So they pretend to be all unselfish so that everybody sees how generous they are. So if you're really authentic and true and confident inside, you don't have to appear confident. You don't have to appear unselfish. So homework number 2 for you is to go out there and be selfish in front of others. See what that does to your ego. In some people, your ego might go crazy. Okay, what are people going to think of me? You see? What are people going to think of me? What are my parents going to think? What is my boss going to think? Those are the thoughts that keep you limited. Those are the thoughts that keep you inauthentic. Caring too much at what others are going to think. Another way people try to look good in front of others, waste their energy, is by being in perfect shape. So that society likes me. I mean, everybody else is in good shape and goes to the gym. What about me? So, what if you're not in good shape? Then what? Are you not going to be loved? If you're going to go to the gym or do sports or be in good shape, you should do it for the sake of health, for the sake of yourself, not for the sake of being accepted, again getting the approval and attention of others. You see how so many things go back to needing approval, go back to what we said in lesson 1, the abandoned child. And most people who go to the gym don't even suspect that they're running away from the abandoned child. And they try to get absolutely perfect, and after they've worked out for 10 years, they're still unhappy. They still don't feel perfect, and they got to work out some more and work some more. And the same applies to your career, okay? To many people's careers. They got to work some more. They got to do some more in order to get that love and affection. So the training exercise here is to not have to be perfect, not always to have to be in perfect shape, to accept yourself as you are right now, to fully accept your body as it looks right now. Your body does not have to be perfect. You're still going to be loved if you're not perfect. I appreciate my own imperfections. For example, I think I have some sunspots here on the forehead, and I could have had them removed surgically, but I didn't. Why? Well, it's my exercise in being okay with it. Being okay with sunspots, being okay with aging, being okay with anything. Because I'm confident within myself. Because I know I am not the body in the first place. I'm the soul. And that's why my life is much more effortless. I don't have to waste a bunch of time and money and effort covering stuff up. Does that mean that I neglect myself, that I don't take care of myself? No, that's not what it means. But when I go out and do sports, and I do sports about 3 times a week, I do it for the sake of fun, for the sake of physical movement, for the sake of myself, and not in order to get approval from people. It's the motivation that's different. Another way people try to look good is by being the perfect boss, the perfect father, the perfect mother, the perfect daughter, the perfect son. And you have a lot of ideas, beliefs, and concepts of what it means to be the perfect son, daughter, father, mother, boss, employee. Okay? And all of that is, of course, changing your authentic self in order to appease and please the other. Okay? What does my boss expect of me? Better be this way. What does my father expect? Better be this way. What does my son expect of me? Better be this way. So we're all walking around trying to behave in ways that will relax others and appease others. And the paradox is that it does not relax others to change oneself. We'd be in an enlightened planet if everybody were authentically just themselves. There would be no lies, there would be no fakery, there would be no front organizations, there would be no deception, there would be no secret societies. Everything would just be open, transparent, and real, authentic and real. Okay? So this inauthenticity is what wrecks the world. The training exercise in this sense is to examine what it means to be a perfect father, mother, son, daughter, or whatever you are, and to examine whether you'd like to breathe that out, let go of it, and who you would be if it didn't matter what father, boss, employee, son, daughter, or whoever think of you. Just be who you are. And just to be clear, this does not mean that you have to start going crazy. If being authentic means going totally nuts and totally abandoning your friends and your family and going crazy, it means that you've suppressed authenticity for a very long time. If you were able to be authentic in front of your friends and in front of your family, you wouldn't need the other extreme of going crazy. Okay? So some might find that their entire family and their entire circle of friends is not who they really want to be with. And in that case, that would be authentic. But before you leave people, see if you can be authentic in front of them. I say this because truly being authentic can lead to quite radical actions. But I recommend you take this slow. Before you leave your wife, before you leave your kids, before you leave your company, before you leave anybody, see if you can be authentic in front of them. Okay? Because if you can't be authentic in front of the people you're already with, I don't know if you can be authentic if you escape. Maybe you think that's easier, but somewhere along the way, your internal programming is going to catch up with you. And that internal programming is, I can't just be who I am. I can't just be loved as who I am and what I want. I can't just express what I like and what I prefer. But you should be able to do that in front of people you're close to, in front of people that apparently love you. And if they do love you, they'll accept you for what you are. So, radicalism is not necessarily authenticity. Radicalism comes from having suppressed authenticity for a long time. It's a reaction to suppression. Okay, if I suppress your authentic speech, your free speech, your speech is going to become more and more radical, more and more extreme, and then it'll turn into hate speech eventually. Why do we have hate speech? Because the person who is practicing hate speech has been oppressed and suppressed for a long time. Not allowed to say this, and this, or so he felt. Okay? So being authentic does not necessarily mean you have to make radical changes. It's soft and incremental changes. You become more of yourself step by step, softly, in respect of the realities and people around you. Other ways we try to get approval from people and always look good and always maintain face is by being in a good mood and smiling. Always being in a good mood. And you know how exhausting that can become and how inauthentic that can become. There is an authentically good mood, authentic joy and happiness, and then there's pretend happiness, and that's people who are grinning and smiling and upbeat all the time whilst suppressing their true feelings. So the training exercise in this case is to not have to be happy all the time. If you're that type, try to reverse it and be in a bad mood once in a while. So I'm tired. So what? And I'm tired. Okay? What are you going to do about it? You know, and if you've never been authentically tired in front of people, never shown tiredness, never expressed it, never dared to express it, at first they're going to be surprised, you know. What, you're tired? What's wrong with you? Oh, you poor thing. I've never heard you talk that way, you know, but they'll have to go through that you can also be different. In fact, if you're always in the same mood, always in the same state pretty much, day by day by day, you can be sure that you're not being authentic. Because being authentic means things shift and change all the time. Okay? Your partner might expect you to be one way, but today you're not. And so what? Yesterday you were sad, and tomorrow you might be happy. Okay, and then they'll ask you, why are you happy? Yesterday you were sad. Who cares? Today I'm happy. I don't have to explain it. Things shift all the time in the authentic life. Things are in flow. Things are in motion. And there's many other ways people try to look good and get approval by looking good. And I recommend you write down a few ways you try to get approval by looking good. Okay? For me, it used to be trying to have a good voice, trying to have the most pleasant voice that I can. And what happened after a while of trying to have the best voice was that my voice got more and more strained. And the more I worried about my voice, the more strained it got until it finally got really thin. And I couldn't speak properly anymore. And then I had to discover that. I had to discover, okay, I want a good voice because that's my job, that's how I get approval, that's how I get money. And I had to release that. And how did I release it? By having a bad voice intentionally. So by doing the reverse intentionally, you can easily release it. So I would appear in front of people or in front of camera, and I just have the voice I have with no resistance, okay? I wouldn't care what people think. I just admit that I have this voice. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the voice I have. What are you going to do about it? That's just my voice. So it was again a matter of feeling comfortable with myself, with who I authentically am. So make your own list, whether it's comforting your mother in order to look good in front of your mother, or whether it's cleaning your car every single weekend because you know the neighbor's watching. List the things you do to look good for approval, and then do just the reverse. That is the main training of part 2 in being authentic. My name is Fred Dodson. Have a nice day.